Somebody that just loves to learn. And another child grows up to be somebody you just love to burn.
Hi everyone, welcome to the community classroom. This is Dr. Tracey McCarthy, psychologist, attorney, and educator, and what we're going to be doing is continuing with our ancestry and legacy series on this particular channel. We're going to look at global ancestry and legacy related to surnames, related to Esau and Edom. And so we're going to be looking at the history of the group that is known as the Hebrews. We're going to be dispelling some myths and miseducation that tend to be going on related to this topic. So we're going to look at the obscuring of identity. We're going to look at the meaning of the name Esau and Edom. We're going to look at the global prevalence of this surname. We're going to look at the migration of Esau throughout the world. We're going to be dispelling those myths that are out there regarding Esau/Edom having a particular skin color and a particular phenotype in general. And so we're also going to be dispelling myths related to the geographic locale of Esau. And we're also going to be looking at this issue again of writing Africa out of the Bible or scripture. So we're going to look at some immigration records. We're going to look at phonetic variations of Esau and Edom. And then we're going to look at something really interesting, which involves these three nations with shared heritage, but they are in distinct parts of the world.
Somebody that just loves to learn.
And as always, if this video appears on anything other than Dr. Tracey McCarthy or Ancestry and Legacy Project, it is stolen and unauthorized. Let's get started. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off with looking at these myths and the miseducation regarding Esau and Edom. There is a lot of miseducation regarding this particular family of people. There are lots of myths, and we are going to address some of those myths by looking at surnames. And so we're going to be able to see that Esau/Edom is comprised of more than people of one color or one phenotype or one geographic locale. Now, hopefully you've had a chance to watch the video regarding Edom/Esau in relation to American Indians. And so we're going to expand this. And so now you know that Esau is not simply located in Europe and that Esau is pretty much spread out. And you're talking about an ancient family here. And so we're looking at ancient family names that people have held on to amazingly throughout time. And so here you see not only is Edom/Esau located in the Americas, you see that the highest prevalence of the surnames related to Esau and Edom are actually in Africa. And so you have the largest incidence of the name in Ethiopia, and then followed by South Africa, and then coming in second for both Esau and Edom, you have Nigeria. And so you can see there are over 12,000 people with the name Esau/Edom in Ethiopia. And then in South Africa, you have over 9,000 people with that name, the name variation. And then in Nigeria, you have over 3,000 for one name and over 5,000 for the other. And you can see here some of the history again of this name Edom, and you can see the variations in terms of the spellings and the understandings of Edom. And so you can see that it's pronounced Edom, and it is a Hebrew name. So again, it is rooted in Hebrew, and it is a form of Adam. So whether you're spelling it Edam or Edom, it is a form of Adam. There is some question about whether Edom is also the name of a god with a little g. And then you can see the variations of the name Edom that you might not have known were even related. And so you see Edam and Edom, but then you also see Eden and Eden and Edon and Edwin and Eton and Etun and Eden, as in Eden, the garden. You see Ethan and Ethan and Ethon and Ethan and Eton. And then you see the way that you can pronounce it. And so you see the E as in eat, and then the D as you would pronounce the D in day, and then you have ah, which is interestingly related to they're using mud to help understand that. And remember that Adam is related to clay and mud and dirt. And then you have the M as in me. And so you have Edom or Edom. And then you can see down at the bottom on the right hand side the notation regarding Benin City and the largest city, the Edo state. And again, this is another rendition. And this Benin City, this is not the country of Benin. And so we're talking about Benin City, and this is in Nigeria. And as you can see, if you do a translation, you're going to come up with the English version Edomite and English Edomite. Again, if you are looking at scripture and you're looking at translations, you will tend to see that ITE pronounced E. So Edomi is another way of pronouncing that. And so what it's saying is that this can be understood as an adjective, also as a noun, of or relating to Edom, an ancient region south of the Dead Sea, or its people. And so that's another thing that's important to remember, is that sometimes when you're looking at these histories, these historical narratives, the names of the people follow the place name. And so you might have a name that the people have taken on, and it's simply a rendition of the actual physical space that they're in, the actual geography. Another thing that is noteworthy in the translation discussion is there is a notation that Edom was a region populated by Edomites who had been forced by the Maccabees to convert to Judaism. So that's noteworthy. There's also a notation that there was significant conflict between those who were descended from Esau and those who were identified as descended from Jacob. Even an incident in the wilderness where the descendants of Jacob were headed off by the Edomi who refused them passage through their territory. And so you can see there is a long-standing conflict between the descendants of these brothers. Okay, so you can also see this listing of the descendants of Esau. So it's down at the bottom. You can see the sons of Esau. And this is really helpful because, again, names help you to identify the culture of a people. They help you to identify the ancestry of a people. And so when you see people historically with names related to these names that you see here, that's generally an indication that this is a part of their heritage. Just like when you look at your own name and you trace it back, it's a part of your heritage. And you can see more names that are associated with Edom, and you can see the rulers of Edom listed here. And you could see previously that there were certain groups that were descended from Esau, like Amalek. So that would be the Amalekites or Amaleki, depending on how you're pronouncing that. And so then you can see even more names with this particular group, and you can see everything from Akan to Iran. So you can see quite a few names here that are related to Esau or descended from Esau. And then you have the listing of the actual kings that were the kings over Esau. And here, these are transliterated Hebrew names. And so you can see in this particular book, and it's a little slanted there because this is a real book, it's not off of the internet. And so you can see some of the names here, and you can see off to the right-hand side, you see Esau and Esau, and those are essentially the same names. And so if you see either of those, it's an indication that you're talking about the same identity, same meaning. And you can see down a little further Etan, and so again, that's another indicator there. And here you can also see a couple of iterations here. You see Eden, and then you see Edom.
It's a family affair.
Okay, so what you can see here is, again, if you do surname searches, you can see that Edom also has a history that is a part of Anglo-Saxon England. And so Esau/Edom has roots also in Europe. And you can see here, we're going to look a little bit more at this migration pattern, but you can see Edom settlers in the United States in the 17th century. And you can even see the name of an individual that came in the 1650s. Elise Edom arrived in Virginia. And there are multiple people who arrived in the United States and settled in the United States and Canada with the surname Esau. And so you can see in the 1800s, you have arrivals in New York and you have arrivals in Canada. And now we're going to quickly look at some of the passenger and immigration list names for Edom and Esau. And as you can see here, there are a number of individuals with the surname Esau that entered the United States at different times. You can see more specifically here. And so you can even see Esan Hart because Esan is also a variation of Esau. And so you can see that there was a notation in 1850, San Francisco. You can see you see Manitoba, you see Philadelphia, you see New York. So you see quite a variety here in terms of the arrivals. And you can see a variety of names. You see Abraham, Cornelius, so it was Heinrich, Helene, Johann, Jacob, so Martin. So you see a variety here, Peter. And so one thing that you see is that people are not necessarily hiding their identity. People are pretty straightforward about what their surnames are. And again, surnames indicate heritage. And that's a little slanted up at the top because, again, this comes from an actual book. And so you can also see in this passenger and immigration list index, you go down and you see Edom and Edon. And so you can see early arrivals. You see that Elise, which might be Elizabeth, but it might just be Elise. So you see a 1665 notation, 1666. You see Edon going to Jamaica, Edom going to Virginia, Edom going to Canada. And here's another name that people don't tend to remember in terms of being related to Edom, and it is Adam or Adams. And so this is another family name that would be related to that Edom heritage. And so you can see that there were a number of Adams that arrived in the United States. And you see a number of them in the 1600s all through the 1800s. Now let's look at these rankings. So you see Edom, there are approximately 18,000 people bearing this specific surname alone. And so without any phonetic variations, just straight Edom, you have over 18,000 people. It's most prevalent again in Ethiopia, and it has actually the highest density in Ethiopia. So the largest number of people with this particular surname are in East Africa. And dispelling all of those myths about Esau only being in Europe or Esau only being in one particular place, you can see the frequency. And so this is great. You can see the largest number in terms of incidents all the way down to some of the lower numbers. And so you get to see Ethiopia at top, Nigeria coming in second, a large number in France, Tanzania, South Africa, Iran, Germany, the United States, England, and Papua New Guinea. And here you can see phonetically similar names, and so you will see the variations of Edom. And one of the things you can be on the lookout for is a name that starts with Edom and ends with something else, or ends with Edom. So you might have a name like Edom, so you see the H in front of the EDOM. And so you'll see that quite a bit. You see the Y in front of it. You might see an E at the end of it. And so you can see that there are lots of variations in terms of this name. And when you see the prevalency off to the right, that's actually showing you the flags, and those are the countries where this prevalence is noted. And again, you can see more phonetic variations. And here you can see more phonetic variations, and there's a name down toward the bottom. You see Edom with an A, you see Edom with the ADOM, and then you see Odom, which is a common name for many people in the United States, and then you see Edom again. And again, depending on what part of the world that you might be in, here are some additional variations. And here are some more variations. And also don't forget that the name is also spelled with an ID. And so you may also see that like you see on the screen. And here you can see some additional variations. You can see the IDU and the IDO. And here are some additional variations, and you can see where you might have two M's at the end. And you can see a few more variations here. And it's important to note the variations because the name appears to be dispersed throughout the world. And so when you are in different places, the phonetics may be a little different, the spellings are going to be a little different. And so when you are in different places or you're looking at different countries, you can see that there are phonetic variations for this particular name, just with, just like any other surname. And again, you can see examples of putting a consonant in front of that E vowel. And so you see a G, or you might see an H. Okay, so now we're going to switch gears here and we're going to look at Esau. And so just as prevalent as Edom is, you will see quite a bit of prevalence in terms of Esau. And so you can also see that it is rooted in another culture also. So you see Indo-Aryan in India. So we're going to look at some of this prevalence of Esau. And you can see here with this, looking at the prevalence here, you can see that Africa commands the majority in terms of a continent of individuals with the surname Esau. So you have South Africa leading, and then you have Nigeria next, Malawi. You also have Tanzania, and then Kenya. And so you have some other countries in between. So you have the United States, and Canada is represented, Germany, Papua New Guinea again, and Tonga. And we're going to talk about that because that's a very interesting dynamic with Tonga. We're going to get to that in the end. And we're going to look at the phonetic variations of Esau in different countries again. And as you can see, sometimes you just have another letter that's added on to the end, or you might have a letter that's added at the beginning. And so you'll have Esau or Jigsaw. Again, you see Esau in there. And again, it's going to be spelled in different ways based upon the geography. And so some other variations to be on the lookout for would be simply Esau, like E-S-A. And you can see Esau, I-E-S-A-U. Again, you'll see sometimes, letters put in front or at the end. And as you can see, some of these phonetic variations don't seem as clear as other ones do, but you can still see the root of the name in many of these phonetic variations. And here are some additional phonetic variations that you might find. And this is distinct from the prevalence rating that you saw with those different countries listed. And so these are not included in that because those were just straight Esau names. And you can again see some additional variations. You've got with an S on the end, so Isus, Isay, Isu. And here you have some additional variations, and even with you see Esau spelled with an E-S-A-W-E. And here you see another variation with I-S-S-A-U. And then some of you may or may not be familiar with this particular type of cheese known as Edom. And you also have the village of Edom. So they've got a little bit of Holland in Saskatchewan. And so you can see that this is pretty spread out. And so you have this huge family with clearly a variety of phenotypes located in a variety of places. And so they've traveled quite a bit and planted themselves or settled in a variety of places across the globe. And of course, it's noteworthy that, Edom is related to red, and this cheese is blanketed in this red covering. And again, you can see Esau represented in the Americas, not just with the Catawba or the Chickasaw. You can see Joseph Esau, and this is in the Caribbean. And then you can also see the Esau Oil Field Supplies Company. And as noted, Esau and Edom, in terms of surnames, are highly represented in Africa, particularly in Nigeria. And one of the things that you might note, if you didn't already know, is there is a group of people known as the Beni, also known as Edo, and they are in southern Nigeria. And so this is in addition to the other groups that we identified in Africa in previous discussions. And in Africa, what you might see in terms of variations, you might see names that begin or end with Edo or Isan or Asan. Okay, so as we are getting ready to wrap up, we're going to make a quick notation here. As you noted, the names Esau and Edom are prevalent, most prevalent in Africa. And so that's where you're going to find the majority of people identifying as Edomi. And one other notation which is really interesting is that this name is prevalent among the Tonga. And this, it doesn't matter where the Tonga are located, this name appears to be prevalent among those people. And so you have the Tonga who are located on the continent of Africa, and then you have the Tonga people who are located in Oceania. And one of the things that is noteworthy is that this particular individual who is identified as Tonga has a deep redness to the skin. And so that is very important to note, that not only do you have the group of people holding on to this ancestry, but there is something about the phenotype that actually fits in with that idea of redness. And you may have recalled the connection with the Taino between Ghana and Jamaica. And so here we have sharing of this name, the Tonga. And so we have at least 3 locations for the Tonga. So we have the Tonga in Oceania, we have the Tonga of Malawi, and then we have the Tonga of Zimbabwe. One thing to note when you are taking information from people is that you need to do your own research. So you need to make sure that the information is reliable, that it's valid and reliable. And so there have been a number of people who have been obscuring this dynamic related to Esau/Edom for quite a while. And so you need to check behind some of that, some of the assertions that are made about the geography of the people, about the phenotype of the people, the history of the people. You need to do your own research to make sure that what you are understanding is accurate. And so these people have not been simply written out of history. Their identity is not really that obscure at all. It's pretty obvious. It's pretty evident. They're pretty proud of their heritage. And so, also you want to take into consideration those oral narratives again. So when people have a story about their heritage, don't be so quick to dismiss it simply because it doesn't fit with the narrative that you've been given previously. And for many people, as we're closing out, this should be something to give you pause, because for many people, there has been significant maligning of those understood as Edom or understood as Esau. And what you're going to find is that Edom/Esau is a little closer than what many of you thought. And sometimes people have been maligning people that they may actually be. Remember, knowledge is power. Take care and see you soon.
One child grows up to be somebody that just loves to learn, and the other child grows up to be somebody you just love to burn. Mom loves the both of them. You see, it's in the